Today we're gonna do a review of the all-new Aer Street Sling. In this video, I'm gonna take my experience of reviewing 500 of the world's best bags and slings, and we're gonna tear this thing apart. Pack it out, talk about the pros and the cons. We're gonna compare it to some of the other top vertical slings in the market, and you're gonna wanna stick around to the end of the video, because if you're not quite sold on this sling, I'll let you know which of these other vertical slings I prefer more, so you can find the bag that best suits your needs. Let's get into the gist of the Aer Street Sling. Reigning from San Francisco, USA, Aer is a carry brand known for making really functional, over-constructed, and urban carry gear. And the Street Sling is like them going into this new trend of vertical slings. And I'm not lying about it being a trend. Like all their competitors, Black Ember, Alpaca, they're all making vertical slings, which is opposed to horizontal slings, which kind of go this way on your body. Vertical slings are kind of worn this way on your body, which offers some unique pros and cons. And I'll talk about those a bit more in depth a bit later in this review. First up, we're gonna talk about some of the top features of the Aer Street Sling. We've got world-class materials, including fitlock buckles, YKK zippers, and Cordura ballistic nylon. The shoulder strap is detachable, meaning it can be worn on your body or also just used as a tech pouch inside your bag. We've got this front compartment here, which is accessible via the lid like this. Also has a key leash. I'm gonna have some stuff to say about this whole front, because it's kind of like the entire identity of the bag, and it's also gonna have its own unique set of pros and cons. And we'll double click into all those details in just a second. We've got a half zip opening for the main compartment, a slide-in sleeve for the back compartment, and a top handle in case you want to carry this bad boy in briefcase mode. As of recording, the Street Sling only comes in black. For the dimensions, we're looking at a width of 7 inches, a height of just over 8 inches, and a fully packed out depth of around 4 inches. And the shoulder strap, at its loosest, gives you around 60 inches, I'd say, to play with. Now, Aer claims that this sling is 2.4 liters in size, which we're gonna test with our highly technical setup. As you can see, we filled this bad boy up with our volume balls, both in the main compartment and the front compartment. For the main compartment, that black dot right there is a liter. So you can see we're just over 1 liter. And if you add the front compartment, we're getting about 1.5 liters. Now here's the deal. Measuring the volume of a bag, especially a smaller bag like this, is a bit more of an art than a science. It depends on how much you pack it out, which compartments you pack out first. But having said that, this volume test does validate kind of the vibe that I had, that this sling does not feel like it's 2.5 liters. If you want to get an idea of how we measure slings here at Nomad's Nation, go ahead and watch this video linked in the corner, and you can get a better idea of what a 2-liter sling actually should look like. So having reviewed hundreds of slings on this channel, I'd say this bad boy feels and functions more like a 1.5 liter. For the weight, clocking in at 0.6 pounds. This is the Street Sling when it's empty, and this is the Street Sling when it's fully packed out and worn at the Nomad's Nation squad. For reference, I'm 5'8", and our media manager, Margaret, is 5'2". And we're gonna pack out this sling throughout the entire review so you can see exactly what it fits. All Aer products are backed by their lifetime warranty against manufacturing defects, and according to the comments on this channel, they're usually very, very good at honoring that warranty. And for all that, the Aer Street Sling runs around 70 USD. And before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this review, if at any point during the video you're thinking about making a purchase, you gotta know that if you use the first link in the description, you can definitely get the best price, and we oftentimes have discount codes for a lot of the brands that we review. Plus, that link helps support the Nomad's Nation YouTube channel and team, so we can keep making the best bag reviews on the web. Thank you very much. All right, let's talk about the outside of the Aer Street Sling. First thing with the outside of any bag we're gonna talk about is the aesthetic, which I think is gonna be a bit controversial with this sling. One of the first things our media manager, Margaret, said when she saw it was like, oh my God, that's like a dad bag. And that's kind of like the vibe, right? It's got this sort of futuristic, stylish front lid. Now, I'm not gonna talk crap about lids, because if you don't know, I actually made my own backpack, and it's got its own lid on it, the Fire T22. So I'm team lid. But the execution of lids can vary, and they're just controversial. They always give the bag an aesthetic that is gonna be very polarizing. So I wanna hear what you gotta say. Like, do you dig the lid and the overall vibe of this bag? It's kind of like Matrix-y to me. Like, I get where Margaret's coming from, and like, I'll admit, this is not a bag that I'd wear because of that vibe. But I think the lid is interesting, and if you really like, you know, modern gear, I can see where this aesthetic might speak to you. Let me know what you think about the entire like vibe of this sling though in the comments below. And another thing that's adding to the vibe of this sling is gonna be this primary fabric, which is a Cordura 1680D ballistic nylon. Now, if you don't know Cordura, they're like the BMW of fabrics. It took me like 10 seconds to think of that. They're like, they make the best fabrics. And this fabric, 1680D, is going to be incredibly abrasion resistant. I'd say it's abrasion resistance, and its overall look, that beautiful sheen, are probably its biggest selling points. It's professional, it's manly, but on the flip side, this fabric is a bit heavy and unnecessarily thick and abrasion resistant, and it's not gonna be the most weatherproof fabric on the market. Now we're gonna dive into the whole front lid in just a second. Let's kind of cover the rest of the outside of the bag. Starting with the top handle, basic, but it's actually quite nice. Now here's the deal, I don't think you're gonna be waltzing around the city carrying the bag like this. Wouldn't recommend it. Doesn't look very cool. But it's nice if you are removing the shoulder strap and going into tech pouch mode. Because then when this thing is at the bottom of your bag and you're trying to grab it, this handle makes that process significantly easier. Really nice webbing. And like, here's the deal, like these little things about like the quality of the fabrics and the materials, they're not gonna be for everyone, but at the end of the day, it's why this bag is coming in at a higher price point. That's what you're paying for. Warranty and higher quality materials across the board, including this beautiful webbing. Kind of feels like a seatbelt on a BMW. 2 BMW references. There'll be a third if I can squeeze it in. Speaking of squeezing in, you can squeeze in a carabiner or some other external carry points on these 2 external lash points on the sling. If you love subtle branding, you'll love that Aer only has their logo right here on the back of the bag. Very discreet, very anonymous, one of the biggest selling points of Aer. They've actually, as they've gotten bigger, have grown more discreet or less loud with their branding, which I know a lot of people in this community really appreciate. We're gonna talk about the back sleeve pocket in the next section, so let's just wrap this section up by talking about the shoulder strap and the overall comfort. Now, I was rocking this sling outside for about 20 minutes, and I think that it is most comfortably worn in crossbody mode. And I typically feel that way about vertical slings in general, like let's say the Black Ember Kompak, because they just kind of end up wanting to go there. You can pop it in this direction, don't get me wrong, but like, I think it looks smartest here. I think it feels the most natural there. But with vertical slings, they kind of work in any which direction you want to put them in. Except like in that crossbody mode, which is why if you're looking for a sling that does this, like a chest bag, a horizontal sling is always gonna be just a better fit for that. For me, I am 100% on team horizontal sling. I just find the look to be better and the overall comfort and access to, that's around the same. I just like the vibe, I like the look, I like having my bag here, but let me know your thoughts on the vertical versus horizontal sling debate. Comment below. Taking the strap off, pretty easy. You got this nice bit of hardware right here, which is made by Woojin, I'll guess. I think Duraflex actually, but Woojin and Duraflex, tomato, tomato. The BMWs of the hardware industry. Tav, are BMWs high quality cars? Yeah. I got an eh. Okay, I gotta figure out a different car analogy. Rolls Royce? Bentley? I've always been a Bentley guy.
Toyota.
Toyota?
Toyota's the best.
Toyota for the win. It's the Toyota of hardware. One last note on wearing the sling too is that there's no magnetic like clasp or hardware in the midpoint of the bag, which you often see with like more modern slings. This Wandered sling right here has this magnetic clasp, which makes it kind of more satisfying to take the sling off and put it back on. Magnets and bags, they just go together like tacos and tequila. But on the flip side, a lot of people in this community think that it opens the bag up to potential theft because you can go ahead, or not you, I hope not you, but in theory, like a thief could just, unbuckle, make off with your bag. You're not gonna have that issue with the Aer Street Sling, as these Duraflex buckles do require a bit more effort to open and to close. But before we transition into that, I gotta let you know that if you're loving this deep dive into the world of bags, then you might be a little bit of a bag nerd. And if that's the case, I wanna tell you that here at Nomads Nation, we don't just review bags on our YouTube channel, but we also have the Nomads Nation newsletter. And in that newsletter, you can look at me like your reporter in the field, where I'm giving you like a bird's eye view of what's happening in this incredible industry of travel and everyday carry gear. I'm talking tips, tricks, hacks, and all the best drops. Limited edition collabs, plus you get access to our exclusive discount codes and giveaways. So if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of this incredible industry, believe me, there's like a revolution happening in the world of gear right now. There's so much cool stuff happening. Then be sure to look for this globe emoji in the description below, and there you can sign up to the Nomads Nation newsletter. And hope to see you in your inbox. Okay, let's talk about the inside of the Aer Street Sling. Leading with this Fidlock magnet, which is one of the most satisfying magnets in the world. Fidlock, like the Toyota of hardware, or the Rolls Royce, whatever way you want to look at it. But this, you pull up, very satisfying and very easy to utilize. But these Fidlock magnets, called V-buckles by the way, are very bulky and can be a little cumbersome as well, but they definitely contribute to that modern aesthetic that's either cool or dad-like, or maybe somewhere in between. We got a little pull tab right here that allows you to cinch and tighten the actual hardware. But then once you're in, you can see we have the lid itself right here. Now this lid has a bit of structure to it. You can hear it. It's a little bit of padding there. That's gonna give that lid its shape and help it maintain that shape. Now with a structured lid like that, it could sort of dent into itself, but it seems to be very well made I don't think it's gonna get destroyed. Believe me, as somebody who made a lid on a backpack, I know they're actually quite complicated. It looks easy, it ain't. I'm complicated. But Aer did a very good job with this. Now getting into this front compartment, we have a key leash, which I think is a great location, easy to access. I would prefer if it was removable, so you can like put it onto a different part of the bag. And then you have the slide front access pocket right here, which I think, gets the job done. You don't need it to be anything extra. Ideal spot for your keys or for your phone. Slide that right in. This is an iPhone 13. If you've got more stuff in here, you can loosen this bad boy, like I said, tighten it up as well. Main compartment. We got the YKK zippers with these pull tabs right here, and these are a little sticky, which I don't like because, I don't know, sticky never feels nice, but it does help to give you a bit more grip. Makes it easier to open and close the compartments. These are YKK zippers, best in the game. And inside you can see we have some nice organization. You got a back sleeve right here, a front sleeve, and then two smaller pockets. Now these pockets are made with a meshy material that has a little bit of stretch to it. There's not a lot of stretch going on. The reason is it's double folded over. So if it was a single layer, it might stretch a little bit easier, but the double fold gives it a bit more, let's say, structure, a little bit more density, but harder to pull. And same thing with this fabric right here. Let's go ahead and pack it out. Now it's important to note that at 2.4 liters and at 7 inches height, or 8 inches, whatever, this guy's small, right? So you're not gonna use this thing to carry big old water bottles around. Here's a 1 liter Yeti just for like a comparison. Instead, you're gonna be putting your smaller bits of gear. This is what we call a pocket reliever or a pocket dump bag. Also on the back side, we have this sleeve right here. Now there might be a negative with this, is where there's no closure in this pocket. Not great for weather resistance and not great for theft resistance and not great for, oops, something slipped out resistance, which would actually be the thing that I'd be concerned about most for my use case. So I think that it would have been better if there was some sort of magnetic closure right there or even a zip just to give you a bit more peace of mind. But for me, good spot for your wallet, kaboom. One thing that I love too about Aer is that they utilize a light gray fabric for the interior. This helps to create a highlight effect in the bag, make it easier to find what you put where. Because access to this thing is not the best, especially depending on what you put in the front, right? So I have my phone in there, so like opening this thing up all the way, it gets the job done, but sometimes it's not like a sling, like let's say like one of these, where I just feel like you can get into it a little bit easier and really open it up. I got a pen clipped on here. Or put some gum in the back sleeve, tissues, AirPods in there. You can see that there's a nice elasticity in this pocket as to where I didn't think the AirPods were actually gonna fit, but you slide them in, the fabric increases in size, bada bing, bada boom. We're gonna throw some Panadol in there, another pen. Now, one thing to note is that if you're really filling up these pockets and this pockets, the main compartment space is gonna fill up quite fast, meaning it's gonna be harder to fit bulkier things. Like let's say you have a hard shell sunglasses case, getting that in there is now going to be a bit more challenging, but it can be done. But keep in mind, 2.4 liters is the advertised space. If you've used other bags in that size range, it's not gonna feel like that. This feels like a 1.5 final answer. I know that it's like, we're splitting hairs, but that extra 1 liter, it doesn't feel like it's there, and that goes a long way if you're expecting it to be there. Now, before we start wrapping this up, a couple final notes. As you can see, it's actually self-standing pretty well, but I wouldn't say you can depend on that. It depends on how the bag is packed out. But we do have a pretty flat bottom here, right, with a nice little crease, and that crease actually helps to create a little bit of just a better self-standing bag. Aer is very good at this. This is sort of what's been implemented in the recent City Pack Pro 2. It's actually self-standing pretty well. And one last note with the comfort is that I think some people aren't gonna be too jazzed up about the size of the shoulder strap. This guy's thin, it's definitely under an inch. I'd say 0.75. Yep, I reviewed a couple of bags in my day, 0.75. So that means that it's very thin, which I think is nice because it's less oppressive. It's not as like much material, it's like in your face. But if you're carrying heavier gear in here, that might start to cut into you a little bit. I usually prefer 1 inch. Again, those little 1/4 inches, they do go a long way. But aside from that, overall, carrying this bad boy, very comfortable experience. Again, I'm probably popping this bad boy in crossbody mode. On the comfort scale, I give it a solid 3.5 out of 5. Like, it's not blowing my mind, but it gets the job done. But comfort varies from person to person, so if you're curious about how anybody feels about the comfort of this bag, or you have any questions about this bag in general, you can ask in the comments below, or you can ask in the Nomads Nation subreddit. Recently launched, we got a huge community of bag nerds, so it's a great spot to connect with other gearheads and ask whatever questions you might have. Let's talk about the overall pros and the cons of the Aer Street Sling. Pro number 1 is gonna be the high quality materials and fabrics. Pro number 2, I think the organization in the main compartment is absolutely perfect. They nailed it. And pro number 3, I gotta admit, pretty cool that it self-stands. This kind of gives it some versatility. If you use this for work, right, you can pop next to your desk. You just gotta love a bag that self-stands by itself. But on the flip side, I got some cons. No bag is perfect. Let's talk about where I think that this bag could be improved. Number one, I do think aesthetically it's going to be polarizing. You're either gonna love it or hate it. And I think more people might hate it than love it. Con number two, definitely not a cheap option, especially at the size of this bag. You're paying a lot for a very small sling. And con number three is that the main compartment feels smaller than advertised, and also the access to the main compartment's a bit tough as well. But remember, if you've weighed the pros and the cons and you're thinking about making a purchase, we do suggest doing so with the first link in the description. That makes sure you get the best price, and if we have any discount codes, that's what it'll be. But if you're not quite sold, I got some alternative recommendations that might be a bit more up your alley. First of which, actually, if you're new to the channel, I recommend watching our leaderboard video. In that video, myself and the whole Nomadization team, we pick our favorite bags in distinct bag categories. So you can check out what our favorite sling picks are between 4 of us, some cool options there that might just kind of give you an idea of what's on the market. You can watch that linked above. But if we're pretty close with the Street Sling, but it's not quite there, maybe one of these might be a bit better for you. First of which is gonna be the Black Ember Kompak. Great pick for you if you're loving that whole vertical sling vibe, but you want a more subtle aesthetic, you want better access to the main compartment, and you want more capacity in that main compartment. And option number 2 is gonna be the Tomtoc Aviator T37. Great pick for you if you want that whole vertical sling, but you're on a bit more of a budget. This Tomtoc's not like dirt cheap, it still uses some great materials and fabrics, but it's coming in at almost half the price at 45 bucks. We've done reviews on both of these bags and you can watch them linked right here. And we'll give you a second to decide which one is best for you. In the meantime, if you got any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below or in the Nomadization subreddit. Thank you so much for watching. Here at Nomadization, our goal is to empower every step of your journey. So be sure to subscribe and we'll catch you next time.